today is the day that Christopher Nolan is launching his new film, Oppenheimer, and I cannot wait to go see it. I'm going to go see it a little bit later tonight. Ray's going to go see it a little bit later tonight. I'm sure many of you are going to rush out and see it a little bit later tonight, but it is maybe appropriate that on this day that Oppenheimer is coming out, that Christopher Nolan has just sent a very strong and loud message to the Broccoli's, to MGM, to Amazon, when he said to them basically, I want to do James Bond, but understand this, if I do, I'm in charge, is what he's saying. Now, this is coming to us from an article in Deadline where, Christopher Nolan was asked the question he's always asked. Hey, you got James Bond, England's most famous movie character. We got you, England's best director, going right now. Would you do a James Bond? He gets asked this all the time. But this time he gave a really, really neat answer. Listen to this. He said, the influence of those movies, talking about the James Bond movies, in my filmography is embarrassingly apparent. It would be an amazing privilege to do a James Bond movie, Nolan told the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast when asked about the Spy series. At the same time, when you take on a character like that, you're working with a particular set of constraints. So basically, this is what we've talked about a lot when it's come to Christopher Nolan about, hey, could you see Christopher Nolan doing a Marvel movie? Could you see Christopher Nolan doing a Star Wars movie? One of the big things I've always said that would probably prevent that from happening is that Christopher Nolan doesn't like to live in somebody else's sandbox. I mean, yes, he did the Batman films, but that was fairly early in his career. He has the ability as a filmmaker right now to write his own stories and do whatever he wants and have no constraints. And we've always said too, with the issue of the James Bond films, that maybe having to work within constraints, that the Broccoli's are the guardians of the James Bond legacy, work within whatever parameters they want to do with the character moving forward, all that kind of stuff. Well, instead of just ending it with, well, there's too many constraints, I won't do it, Christopher Nolan went on to say this. You wouldn't want to take on a film without being fully committed to what you bring to the table creatively. So, as a writer, casting, everything, it's a full package, he said. You'd have to be really needed and wanted in terms of bringing the totality of what you bring to the character. Otherwise, I'm happy to be the first in line to see whatever they do. Let me translate for you what Christopher Nolan just said. I write it, I cast it. Like I know Broccoli's, you're the ones in charge of James Bond, but I'm going to be the one to decide who James Bond is. So I write it, I cast it, and I have full creative control. That's basically what he just fired across the bow. He is communicating to MGM and the Broccoli's through his interviews right now. He's saying, I'd love to do it. Look at my movies. I love James Bond. And my God, what a privilege it would be to do it. One thing. I call the shots. And you know what? There's not many directors on the planet whose last names aren't Scorsese or Spielberg that can walk into the room and demand that kind of respect. But he is right now. He can walk into the room. And oh, by the way, just a little side note. The last James Bond movie, No Time to Die, the international distributor and one of the production companies in that movie is Universal. You know who Christopher Nolan's making his movies with right now, including Oppenheimer? Universal. So there could be this communication going on through the media and maybe some back channel communications going on. Now, the question that becomes, would Christopher Nolan be a good fit for Bond? I mean, Bond, let's look at the history of it. Let's look at the last 6 films, all right? This is clearly a successful franchise. Die Another Day may have struggled a bit with the critic rating of 55%, but still made $431 million. You know what that's more money than, Ray?
Black Adam.
That's right. Made more money than Black Adam did. Anyway, then Casino Royale, the start of the Daniel Craig era, 94% critic rating, over $600 million. Quantum of Solace took a dip, but still 64%, almost $600 million. Then Skyfall, 92%, $1.1 billion. Spectre, 63% with $880 million. No Time to Die with an 83% and $774 million. You need a director who can bring that caliber of pedigree. So let's look at Christopher Nolan. Tenet was, his weakest one out of the gate, 69%, but still almost 70%. Made $365 million. Remember, that movie was released in the heart of the pandemic.
Yeah, that was a pandemic movie.
That was in the heart of the pandemic. Dunkirk, 92%, over half $500 million. Interstellar, 73% with $773 million. The Dark Knight, 87%. Some people believe the greatest comic book movie of all time, over $1 billion. Inception, 87%, $870 million. The Dark Knight, sorry, not Dark Knight Rises, but Dark Knight, 94%, over $1 billion. That's considered by many to be. So this is clearly a director who's got the critic history, the ratings history, the box office history that match up very well with the James Bond franchise. Look, is there a film fan among us that wouldn't love to see Christopher Nolan do a James Bond film? I think we would all love to. But I also like the idea of a director working in partnership with the stewarding production companies. Maybe they can figure something out. We want to take a second and thank the sponsor of this video, Birddogs. You know, as a guy, there's only two things that are important to me when it comes to fashion: looking good, and even more importantly, being comfortable. And that's where our sponsors, Birddogs, come to the rescue. Offering everything from pants like stretch khakis, joggers, and sweatpants, to shorts like gym shorts and swimsuits, and even great looking and comfortable polo shirts. Birddogs, like their stretch khaki shorts, are designed to fit slimmer through the thighs and legs, giving you a truly sculpted look. Birddogs shorts fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. You see, Birddogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And that's just one of the reasons that by wearing Birddogs, you're gonna look good and, more importantly, feel good. So guys, go to birddogs.com/Campea for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/Campea for a free Yeti-style tumbler. Use code Campea. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this whole thing? Christopher Nolan seems to be indicating and sending messages to the company saying, I would love to do a James Bond film, but I'm the guy who's going to be in charge if you want to do it. Do you like that approach? Maybe you don't even think Christopher Nolan is necessarily the right director to be doing a James Bond. Maybe you think he's one of the great directors in the world, but that's not quite a good fit. Maybe you've got some other directors in mind you'd like to see do it. Or maybe you love the idea of him taking it and being 100% in charge of it. What do you guys think? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching our video. Make sure you do all the standard stuff, subscribe to the channel, click the thumbs up button. But listen, also, we do a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, hour-long show every day. Make sure you go and subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice.